Your workplace can contain both obvious and hidden hazards, which can decrease productivity and result in painful injuries, even death. Taking the time to think safety and clean up your workplace can make the difference between a safe and productive day and one you'd rather forget. In this program, we'll take a look at some basic things you can do to protect yourself and your coworkers from harm. There are several keys to preventing accidents. First, you need to maintain a good safety attitude. You can't let yourself get angry or frustrated when things don't go your way. You also need to develop good safety habits and learn to use sound judgment. And you need to know your body's limitations, just like you know its abilities. This may all sound easy, but it takes some real thought and practice to learn how to avoid mental and physical stress when you're on the job. You have to be able to pace yourself, recognize when you need to take a break, and never bite off more than you can chew. Getting too comfortable with a job can also lead to accidents. When things become routine, we sometimes forget the hazards that are lurking around the next corner. That's when you need to remember to stay sharp. You should never let your body run on autopilot with your mind somewhere else. Don't let pressure to get the job done make you reckless either. You can't take chances with your safety or anyone else's. You can avoid risky actions by using sound judgment. For example, you should never disable or remove power tool or machine guards to try to be more productive. They're in place to keep your hands and fingers safe. Remember to lock on with personal fall protection when you're working up high. And never overload electrical outlets or surge protectors. This might seem like a lot of things to keep in mind, but with a little work, they'll become second nature to you. Keeping your job site neat and clean and removing any hazards that you see is critically important to being able to work safely. You need to recognize things that could cause problems and eliminate them before you begin work. Clutter is one of the major causes of accidents. It's like a hidden trap waiting to be sprung. For example, many tripping accidents result from things that are scattered around a work site. To avoid potential problems, you should dispose of excess material and rubbish as quickly as possible. Walkways and stairways should be kept free of debris and equipment as well. Remember not to store furniture or supplies there either. Doorways should be kept clear too. Slippery areas should be well marked with hazard signs so people will know to tread carefully. Even small objects can be major hazards. A screw jutting out from a door sill, a pencil lying on the floor, a loose piece of carpet can all cause someone to hit the deck. Electrical cords can also be a problem. Stringing them haphazardly across walkways can lead to dangerous falls, so try to tape them down whenever possible. Open drawers can also be hazardous and difficult to spot. Keep them closed to prevent a painful trip to the floor. Let someone know about bad lighting immediately. If you can't see hazards, you can't avoid them or have them fixed. Remember, safety housekeeping isn't something that you should do every once in a while. You need to police your work area every day. And report all hazards as quickly as possible, but only remove a hazard if you've been properly trained to do so. If you don't know how to deal with something, leave it alone and get help. Using tools and equipment properly and safely is an important part of accident prevention. First, make sure that they are clean and in good working condition. Dirty or damaged equipment can cause accidents. For instance, knives and other cutting edges should be kept sharp. When a blade is dull, you have to use extra force to make a cut, and that can cause you to lose control. Always use the correct tool for the job. Using something like a screwdriver as a chisel can cause it to slip or break. And a wrench really shouldn't be a substitute for a hammer. Never use a box or stack of material to get you up high. You may think you're saving time, but you're risking a serious fall. Using a ladder will let you reach what you need to get safely. When you're making repairs or performing maintenance on machinery, you should only use tools that have been specifically designed for the job. If at all possible, maintenance should be done while all moving parts are stopped. A piece of equipment can grab a sleeve or a finger all too easily when it's running. So cut or disconnect all power sources and follow proper lockout procedures when appropriate. Supplies and equipment should always be handled with care. Get a good grip when carrying things and take your time. Back injuries can be painful. Serious ones can lead to long-term problems. To avoid back strains, be sure to use proper lifting techniques. If an object is too heavy or bulky to lift alone, ask for help. In some cases, the best idea may be to use a hand truck or even a forklift. Tool storage is important too. Return tools to the cases, racks, or drawers they came from. Make sure they're clean and ready to use the next time you need them. And remember to put all of the guards back on before you put your tools away. A major part of safety housekeeping and accident prevention involves substances that you work around every day. You might be surprised at how many there are on your job site that can be hazardous. Soaps, cleaners, and disinfectants can all contain chemicals that can be dangerous if they're not handled correctly. So be sure to read labels and follow their instructions. Safety data sheets, SDSs, are another good source of information about what types of chemical hazards exist and how you can protect yourself while you're handling a substance. So it's important to know where the SDSs for the materials that you work with are kept and how to read them. Sometimes you'll need to wear personal protective equipment, such as goggles, gloves, or respirators, when you work with chemicals. Check their SDSs or talk to your supervisor to find out what PPE you should be using. When you're storing chemicals, read the label and the SDS to determine what type of environment they need. Pay particular attention to temperature and ventilation requirements. There should be enough light in all storage areas so you can easily read container labels. Any shelving should be strong and corrosion resistant. And never overstock shelves. Too many containers make it difficult to find what you want and can increase the chance of a spill as well. Storage areas should be big enough to provide safe access to the chemicals and allow for easy movement as well. Materials that are flammable should be stored in UL-approved cans with spring-loaded caps, then placed in a flammable materials cabinet for safekeeping. Compressed gas cylinders should be firmly secured in cool, dry, well-ventilated areas. And never store food or drinks in refrigerators that contain potentially hazardous substances. It's too easy to confuse what's inside, and there's always the possibility of contamination. In spite of all of your precautions, chemical spills do occur, so you need to know how to both clean them up and dispose of them safely. The biggest concern with a spill is the health and safety of your coworkers. So the first thing you need to do is evacuate the area, then notify appropriate personnel. The Substances Safety Data Sheet will provide you with information on proper cleanup and disposal. Remember, recommended procedures can be different for each chemical. If the substance is flammable or combustible, you need to remove any open flames or sources of heat from the area and increase the ventilation. During a spill cleanup, you should wear appropriate personal protective equipment such as gloves and safety goggles, and in some cases even a respirator and chem suit. This will limit your chances of coming into contact with the substance and keep you from breathing in harmful vapors. If the spill is a liquid, an absorbent solid should be used to soak up the chemical and pack it up for disposal. How you dispose of a chemical is also important. You need to know which substances you can safely put in the trash and which require special handling. You should be extremely careful of chemicals that could become fire hazards, such as cleaning fluids and oily or solvent-soaked rags. Under certain conditions, these could all easily ignite. And be aware of chemicals that could react with one another. Their safety data sheets will identify them. Some materials may need to be removed by specialized waste disposal companies. See your supervisor to determine how to dispose of any hazardous substances that you're working with. Some jobs don't require personal protective equipment. Others need it all the time. When there are hazards in your work area that you may not be able to avoid, PPE can be what saves you from a serious illness or injury. Gloves should be used with a number of tasks. There are many types, so make sure you get the right gloves for the jobs that you're doing. Leather gloves protect against rough materials and other hazards. But if you're working with sharp objects, cut-resistant gloves may be what you need. Working with chemicals often requires rubber, vinyl, or neoprene gloves. See the material safety data sheets to determine which type will provide the best protection. If you're handling hot materials, aluminized gloves are probably the right solution. There are also a number of situations that require eye protection. If you're working around flying particles or debris, safety glasses can be a good solution. But dust or splashing liquids will require goggles. They seal tightly to your face, so nothing can make its way to your eyes. In situations where splashing could be severe, a face shield may be needed as well. When you're dealing with chemicals that might splash, or in extremely dusty environments, you may also need some type of protective clothing. Options range from ordinary work shirts and pants to various types of aprons. Your supervisor will know what you should use. As you're thinking about PPE, you can't forget your head and feet. Environments with overhead hazards or that can have falling objects call for hard hats, as well as safety shoes with steel toes or removable toe guards. Safety shoes can also help to prevent accidents on wet and slippery surfaces. Make sure the shoes you wear have soles that give you the best traction for the surface conditions you'll be working with. A good safety attitude, keeping your work environment in order, knowing how to work with the tools and materials that you use, and recognizing how you need to protect yourself are all key to preventing accidents. Let's review. The first step in working safely is to develop a good safety attitude. Know your abilities and your limitations. Keep your work area neat, clean, clean and hazard-free. Know how to use the tools and equipment you work with properly and safely. Be aware of the hazardous materials in your environment and know how to handle them. Protect yourself. Know what PPE you should be using for the work that you do and wear it. Going to work doesn't have to be dangerous. By having a good safety attitude and following good work practices, you can avoid hazards, prevent accidents, and keep you and your co-workers safe all day, every day.